Good evening. Welcome. This is the low-code, no-code session. And what we're going to look at is the trends in this area. Let me give you a couple of stats before I introduce my first fireside chat speaker. Bunch of people. Forrester estimates that 75% of all enterprise code, this year will be, built using some form of low-code solutions. Gartner thinks that almost 65% of the apps will be built with low code, in a few years. And Inside Big Data, site calls 2021 the year of low code, right? And there are several viewpoints in this space. What we want to do over the next 90 minutes is, go through this discussion of what is it, and talk to CEOs, founders, think tanks, strategy folks, and platform companies to see what different viewpoints exist. How does it impact productivity? Is it a growth opportunity? Is it more of an operational efficiency a scenario? How does it change the developer landscape? The people we today refer to as developers, the notion of citizen developers. So all these issues will be discussed. My first speaker is somebody who in the SaaS world probably needs no introduction, but given that the stats from yesterday that we reached almost 40 countries, our day one had folks from 40 countries. I will go through a little bit of introduction. Suresh Sambandam is the CEO of Kissflow. Navya, please go ahead and add Suresh on stage. Suresh Sambandam is the CEO of Kissflow, a global SaaS company. They're pioneers in digital workplace solutions, right? They help you manage all your organizational, stuff on a single platform. They're used by 10,000 organizations globally in 160 countries, right? No mean feat, and almost 50 plus Fortune 500 companies today use their solution, right? I've had a chance to meet Suresh once several years ago at SaaSX on the beautiful shows of Mamallapuram, as us Chennaiites call it, and some other folks call it Mabalipuram. I don't know why, but anyway. He's such a passionate CEO, and most importantly, he invests significant amount of time in grooming future talent, future entrepreneurs, and almost selflessly gives his time and effort and resources and infrastructure to make sure the ecosystem grows. So Suresh, welcome to the chat.
Thank you, Narendra. That was a bit embarrassing to hear.
No problem. All facts. So since this is straight talk, Suresh, we'll just get to the point.
Yeah.
How do you see this low-code momentum? How do you see this no-code momentum? I actually went and Googled low-code, no-code tool, top 10 lists, right? Mm-hmm. Typical top 10 lists. I'm a lazy guy, just went and did top 10. Kissflow showed up as number 6 in the top 10 list, right? So you're clearly, in the global top 10 list, right? Talk to us about this.
Yeah. There is a bit of a history, I wanted to say. When we started in 2004, that is when we actually started the low-code platform. We never knew the name for it. So this is the classic category creation problem. And there are two problems. One is there is no category like this. Mm-hmm. The second problem is you're like 15 years ahead of the market. So you thought 15 years ahead of the market and nobody recognizes what you're doing. So we called it, you won't believe, first we called it's spreadsheets to applications, because no code who will use, developers won't use. What will business users will use? What will business users use? They'll use spreadsheet very easily. And then from spreadsheets, how can we make applications very quickly? So meaning that's so naive, and that's how we came up with it. And then after some time, we realized that's not going to cut it. Then we called it's a DIY platform. We didn't know the no-code, low-code name at the time, and those categories haven't evolved. So we called it the first do-it-yourself platform, because in the US, things like IKEA, where people are able to put together furniture, they don't have carpenters, right? They have a ready-made stuff, and do-it-yourself gardening, do-it-yourself home things are not very popular. So since we are targeting US market, we thought we will call it do-it-yourself, and that's where we actually started. And there is no wonder We are number 6 now because we should have been number 1. Actually, we became number 6 because we were at it till 2012 for 8 years, and the market wasn't taking off. So we decided to pivot away from this low code, no code strategy into a SaaS product with Kissflow, which is one of the use case of the platform we had at the time. So which is the workflow automation platform. So we repositioned, it was originally called as Orangescape platform, which is the low code, no code platform. Now we repositioned it as Kissflow workflow software. And then we pivoted, and then we took 5 years to build that up. And by the time we built that up, somewhere in 2014, low code, no code started getting real traction. And
by the way, sorry to interrupt you, the term low code, no code got sort of more popular after the 2014 report.
Exactly.
So your journey and that reports were probably coinciding, and then you could see the momentum picking up. Sorry to interrupt you.
Exactly. So yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what I was saying. So 2014-15 is when it started appearing. But by the time we have already pivoted and gone into this workflow space, and we were still a little bit skeptical because we spent 10 years and nothing happened. And, so by the time we took this detour, that market took off in a very big way. And right now, I think it's a $40 billion market opportunity. Low code, no code is a $40 billion opportunity. Luckily, we haven't totally missed it. We came back strong from 2018. We again came back into the low code, no code market, and that's how we got back to the 6th position now. So, but I think we should be easily able to get to the number 2, number 3 position, and then eventually the number 1 position as well, because we come from that platform pedigree. The underlying technology that Kissflow uses is actually the low code, no code platform. And that is the history of how we originated and where we are right now. So
awesome.
This is a space that we are very, very familiar. It's a very familiar territory for us. We know the in and out of this this category now. So how it evolved, the citizen developer paradigm, the business user paradigm, the shadow IT, the intersection of business and technology, all that stuff that happened in the last 15 years.
Truly 5 years. Suresh, I'll request you to maybe spend a minute or two on what does your platform do? I mean, whose life does it make easier? Talk to us a little bit about your whole BPM philosophy and how Kissflow solves that.
Sure. See, actually, there are 2 different personas. One is actually a business user persona, where they won't be able to do solutioning, but for them, everything is a process, and there is a screen, and then whatever is behind the screen is actually the database. They won't be able to see a database decoupled from the middle tier, which is decoupled from the front-end tier, which is a classical, cognitive understanding a developer has, but a business user doesn't have this understanding. So our no code platform addresses this particular business user who's able to visualize the application as only as screens.
Got it.
And enable them to automate processes without having to do any programming whatsoever, essentially translating their business knowledge into a working application without any technical help whatsoever. It's a completely visual development targeted to business users, which later Gartner coined the term citizen developers.
What kind of people use this today? Sorry, go ahead.
The challenge with this is these business users won't be able to build like a procurement system or a ERP application or an HRMS system. They won't be able to build that because that is an application design thinking that needs to be there. What they'll be able to build is, there is somebody in the sales manager, they want to get a discount approval done, for which there is a 3-level approval process that needs to happen. And if you go to IT, they're not going to build that discount approval in any time soon because this is much lower in their priority, right? So he'll quickly come to Kissflow, pull up a form, create that, drag and drop their widgets, do the lookups, go to the process design, specify the approval steps, push the publish button, bingo, they go live. And then instantly they'll be able to use it in 2 hours, 3 hours time frame. So it probably takes less than half a day to do this. So and there is a long list of use cases like this when the company crosses like 500 employees and like some $50-60 million in revenue. There's a long list of use cases that comes. The bigger the company, the list is much longer. And classically, these use cases were solved by Lotus Notes applications, for example, right? Or MS Access applications, or there are embedded applications inside Outlook which goes as attachments in the email, right? And Microsoft has something called InfoPath, right? If you remember, people used to use InfoPath and SharePoint and all of that and build it. So all those use cases we were able to address very, very easily. So that is the use case number one, which is the citizen developers, how to automate business process, which are simple to medium complex, which doesn't require solution thinking. Am I still there? Hello? I'm okay. I think we lost Narain. I think I'm guessing he's going to come back.
Suresh, I'm here. Can you okay?
Yeah. So that is the use case number one. The use case number two is the low code piece, which is there is a professional developer, but not like a product developer. They are in between these two categories, but they're able to think a little bit like a solution. They understand data model. They understand the 3-tier abstraction of data being different from middle tier being different from front end tier. To some extent, understand, but they don't want to spend 12 months developing an application. Can we do this in 2 months? And that is the low code use case of building a full-fledged application like a procurement system or something like that. They'll be able to build. So these are the two use cases Kissflow solves today. One is our no-code use case for citizen developer. Another one is the IT developer, who's a professional developer within the enterprise, and also systems integrators like Persistence or Wipro or TCS Cognizant. They'll be able to develop this application and give it to customers, which is the bigger opportunity for SIs here, actually.
Thank you. You read my mind. That was going to be my next question, which is, what kind of folks do you believe? Is this going to go directly into the enterprises, especially in your use case one? Chances are directly enterprises, and the citizen users, developers within the enterprises can go off and use it. Yeah. And the low-code opportunity, is the low-code opportunity a great solution for modernizing applications, you think?
Yeah. There are 3 use cases. The one is called MXDP, right? Multi-experience development platform. This typically, this MXDP use case is B2C facing. For example, you can develop a modern mobile banking application, which is consumer-facing application. The basically banks, customers facing application. That is an MXDP use case. The second use case is digital operations management, which is internal process automation. We automate their entire digital processes. The third one is digital legacy modernization, which is like the forms. For example, Oracle Forms 6i and 7i is going end of life. SharePoint has gone end of life. Lotus Notes has gone end of life. People have millions of dollars of investment in those and applications. All of that can come in. So these are the 3 use cases that can come in. And these are the 3 use cases where the SIs can play, because these cannot directly go to the customer. Because the customer resources will not have the time and the effort to go and do some analysis and look at what is, like, a lot of these old applications will have a lot of junk in it. So they need to sort of remove that, and then it's like digging gold, right? In typical, I think in PwC or somebody where they had Lotus Notes, they have 200,000 Lotus Notes applications.
Wow.
200,000, okay? Wow. And I'm sure out of this 200,000, maybe 15,000 is the only valid applications, and remaining 185,000 is junk, right? And nobody in the customer's domain has the time to analyze and cull out this 15 and then come up with a strategy and then take this 15. And there is no magic bullet of migrating them to a no-code platform or a low-code platform. So somebody has to sort of redo it. When they redo it, for 15,000 applications, if you do the math and even put $5,000 per application, you will end up with the professional services budget of so big that no customer will embark on this project. Now, that is where low-code and no-code comes in. Because whatever you do in $5,000, you'll probably be able to do in $500, which is 10 times the cost reduction. So then the whole project is supposed to be $20 million project, $50 million project will come to $2 million or $5 million project. Then there is viability in actually executing this project and getting this migrations done. And that is the critical role that the no-code, low-code platforms actually play.
So it's interesting, you made several points, right? One is you believe this is actually an opportunity for SIs
Exactly.
To go off and create new work and new business with customers,
Exactly.
and not start to look at it as a cost reduction in potentially what they were trying to do. That, like the example you gave, instead of a $5,000, it's like a $500 effort. But then this is a typical low-cost volume model rather than a high-cost, not going anywhere, and maybe the project gets stalled because the budgets are too high.
Exactly. In fact, the low-code, no-code, what is going to happen is, see, if you remember the classic software project, there is something called scope out.
Yep.
Why do we scope out? Because the cost of scoping in is so high. So you want to look at priority items and then only do that and scope out everything else, because you don't want to, if you include the scope, the project cost goes up. Now, what low-code, no-code is going to do is that it is reducing the cost by 1/10.
Interesting.
Right? 10 times rather, instead of, I should say 10 times, right? So since it's reducing cost by 10 times, whatever you traditionally scoped out, you will scope in now, because now the affordability is there. That means a lot more processes are going to get into digital transformation, all of that. And especially in COVID, now customers have realized, hey, if only all my process has been in cloud, I would have actually did this work from home or remote work, and the whole company wouldn't have gotten stuck. Somehow it stuck very deeply into customers' mind, and we are seeing a lot of tailwinds for Kissflow. Our enquiries increased by 30% during the COVID time, right? We increased sales during COVID times because a lot of people now say, hey, you need to do digital transformation. COVID has actually helped these companies in a big way. And with this cost structure being low, it's going to be a double benefit. So there is, we have a Y2K kind of scenario now. COVID has brought in a Y2K kind of scenario 20 years later, and then this putting some lot of tailwinds. So we'll be able to take advantage and ride that wave. Yeah.
One thought which hits my mind as you speak, Suresh, is that in addition to all the cost aspects, there seems to be a strong time element or a turnaround time element, right? Which is, like you said, I have a certain finite time within which I need that approval between 3 levels, right?
Yeah.
That time criticality cannot be measured, because if I don't get the approval, I potentially lose the customer.
Correct.
Right? And is that aspect being highlighted enough, you think?
See, I think that is very use case specific.
Okay.
See, not all approval cycles are time sensitive. So that's why, like for example, if you are doing an RFP bid and there is a deadline, then the whole team is like, if you're doing 100 crore RFP or 100 million RFP, then every team is doubling down towards the timeline, right? There is a time criticality. So that is very use case specific.
Got
But
it.
let's say you want to provision something, unless you have some turnaround times which is linked to it, it is not so much of a problem. So what Kissflow, for example, in our platform, what we do is we provide the SLA to be attached to every approval step. It's optional. So for use cases where there is no need for SLAs, users don't have to attach the SLA. For use cases where there is a need for SLAs, they can attach the SLA. Once they attach the SLA, then automatically there is escalation and alerts that goes to the customers.
So there are 2 other constituents in our audience at NPC, right? I think you've addressed a lot of the SIs who could potentially take advantage of it. Correct. The second constituent is developers from startup environments, right? I mean, you are, I would say, a growth stage startup, but you probably still operate as a startup. But there are a lot more younger, smaller startups in the audience today. So one of the questions would be, what advice, guidance would you have for them? One. And second is, we have a lot of students joining with us, right? Who are probably finishing up their engineering or writing code, in high school stages. What advice would you give to those guys too? So two constituents, please.
Yeah, I don't know how do I advise students specifically. I'll probably leave that because I don't think in the low code, no code context, I don't know how do I advise them. I don't know that. But the first one you said is a very beautiful question, which is young startups. And that is also somewhat connected to the services industry, which India is a leader in the world. The way I'm seeing it is the services industry Indian services industry has the best B2B domain knowledge in the entire world, simply because we have managed the business processes of the global best companies in the world in India. And that business domain knowledge is embedded in the TCS of the world, the Infosys of the world, the Persistence of the world, and all these companies. Now, within those companies are those solution architects who have rich with domain knowledge, but they do not have the programming knowledge to build a product.
Interesting.
Right? Because that requires setting up a technology team, doing a front-end developers, back-end developers, UI design, blah, blah, blah. Now, low-code platforms like Kissflow, we have a SaaS edition where somebody with the domain knowledge, like let's say somebody is a procurement specialist, right? They can come into Kissflow, take the SaaS edition and build a complete SaaS solution without having to know any programming knowledge, and then push a button and go live in a subscription model, right? And that actually changes the paradigm for new startups, right? And that actually completely, it's a game changer for us. And this is not something I'm doing. This is exactly, we are actually right now, we are building the Kissflow procurement cloud by hiring a domain expert from KPMG. This one guy using that, just 2-3 people to support him. It's just a 3-member team is building a huge procurement software which will compete with the likes of Ariba or Coupa of the world, right? But not necessarily in their market, but in a different segment. And we are able to do that, and we have a very valid proof point. And that is a big opportunity for India, especially the B2B folks who are like solution architects, who have domain expertise, who are sitting in these large companies, and we can create a huge number of SaaS companies using this, and in a very short time, right? In 3 months, 3 to 4 months, you can go live.
Phenomenal. So you're actually saying this could be a fountain of a whole bunch of new startups, without them having to go acquire very hard to find full stack developers, and building strong technical teams, and hiring a VP engineering, CTO, which many of them probably cannot even afford and can't get the best ones, but can go off on this path and build up business critical solutions very quickly. Exactly. This is phenomenal, right? I mean, I think Suresh will wrap up in about a minute or so. You need to go shout on rooftops, and we'll make sure we'll get this word out as much as we can.
Sure.
Because this, as I said, and my discussion with Dave will also be around this topic, which is there is certainly also a talent challenge in the industry, right? Which you potentially with this environment address that gap, where while we are taking some of the best talent and getting them to be more on the full code environments, we could start off with the people who necessarily don't have a computer science degree or a very strong programming background, and probably, like you described, have a good solutioning background, can start off and build solutions. This is fantastic.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So this has been fantastic. Any closing remarks before we bring Dave on stage?
No, that's all I had, and I think it was it was great talking to you, and the questions were very powerful, and it brought out a lot of these things that I wanted to say. I think I see that low code, no code is it's a huge opportunity in the market, not just for companies like Kissflow, but also for the talent in India, but also for the IT services industry, which is it's a huge industry for the country. So in whichever way you look at it, they're going to benefit in a big way. So I think
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you. Yeah. I look forward to an article from you on this topic, right? Somewhere on whatever your most favorite platform is, right? Because I think it opens up opportunities for a whole bunch of people wanting to do startups. So thank you very much, Suresh. I really appreciate the time.
Definitely. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Suresh.